Another Saturday when we bring you your favorite security and safety tonic on television. Welcome to your program today, Security Watch Africa, as always on the Africa Independent Television. Today is another great day. Depending on where you are, it could be sunny or rainy. I know that some people have called me from some part of Africa to say it's raining in their area. But whatever be it, we'll give God the glory for a wonderful day. Yes, thank you. You know, on this program, we'll give you the security information you need to keep your life safe and secured. Welcome. My name still remains Patrick Abambo. Today, we have, some would say maybe a big fish, but we have somebody who should tell us everything about the Nigerian Air Force. He's here to talk with us. Like some of you have already gotten the notification today, and some of you have sent your questions. So today you have that freedom to hear from him, and possibly talk with him. Unfortunately, time may not permit us for you to talk with him, but either way, feel free to send your questions or your views for him to respond to, if possible. You know, time is a problem when we're on television. But not before we take this report by Shirley Daniels, part of what happened in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, the Nigeria Mid-Day celebration. Sit back as we give you this report.
In line with his drive of boosting the morale of his officers and soldiers, the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Taoreed Abiodun Lagbaja, gave the Chief of Army Staff Commendation Awards to some officers and soldiers of the Nigerian Army as part of the just concluded Nigerian Army Day celebration, Nassau 2023, which took place in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. These awards are viewed as endorsement for professionalism, commitment, and bravery of an officer or a soldier.
To Brigadier General Everest Ifeanyi Okoro, who is now being decorated by the Chief of Army Staff with the Chief of Army Staff Award. And next to be decorated is Brigadier General Samaila Mohammed Obama, Brigadier General B.O. Omopariola. Next is Lieutenant Colonel I.B. Umar. Next to be presented with the award is Lieutenant Colonel I.I. Ndio. Next is Sergeant Clement Morondo. It's just been decorated by the Chief of Army Staff. And next to be decorated is Sergeant Gibson Ezukama. Next is Lance Corporal Julius Ogumakinwa. Next to be decorated with the Chief of Army Staff Commendation Award is Lance Corporal Suleiman Musa.
Taking his most motivational stride further, the Chief of Army Staff invited the special guest of honor, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was represented by the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, to present 6 brand new Hilux vehicles to 6 Army warrant officers. These vehicles are to aid the officers in discharging their jobs effectively.
The special guest of honor is here represented by His Excellency, the Vice President. Army Warrant Officer Nnamdi Victor, now being presented the key to the brand new Hilux by the special guest of honor. And finally, the next presentation is to Army Warrant Officer Matthew Ogbu. Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you so very much, guest of honor.
Proficiency of the Nigerian Army was also on display as paratroopers from the Nigerian Army School of Infantry Airborne Wing jumped from heights of 8,000 feet from the sky, bearing the national and Nigerian Army colors.
After having wishes with angels in the sky, that is divine enforcement surrounding the safe landing of airborne forces. Let's put our hands together, please. That is about, let's put our hands together, please. This successfully landed.
That is it. These drivers rapidly. Let's put our hands together, please. Tactical operation. Well connected. Snipers rapidly. Yes.
Shirley Daniels, reporting for Security Watch Africa.
You can see how men are jumping down like birds. Really, that is quite spectacular. But that shows, like the report did say, proficiency. They master the act of coming in, and this is to embed them in an area of operation. But one thing that gladdens my heart here is seeing the Nigerian Air Force effectively cooperating, maybe in the spirit of the synergy with the Nigerian Army, because that aircraft, I must say, is from the Nigerian Air Force. And here in the studio with me, I have the Director of Public Relations and Information of the Nigerian Air Force, talking about Air Commodore Edward Gankwet. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio. Yeah, seeing your men and the Nigerian Army in synergy, what do you have to say?
Yeah, it's a very delightful thing to see, and I'm very glad that Nigerians are beginning to realize that the armed forces, their own armed forces, are working together, whether in the battlefield or out there in some of these events. Why? Because jointness and synergy are critical factors in every operation, and we're very excited that the services that we have today, who have come a long way, some of them right from their early days as boy soldiers, you know, now at the mantle of leadership. And I want to assure Nigerians that if we have seen synergy in the last set of service chiefs, then what we will see this time is going to be twice or even 3 times better than what we saw in the past. So with that, I think we're in for better days.
Yeah, that is quite reassuring. Yeah, let's talk about the service chiefs. Let's talk about the Nigerian Air Force. Today we have a new chief of the air staff, person of Air Marshal, Air Vice Marshal. You know, I'm tempted to call him Air Marshal
Well,
because I
very
think it's
soon.
long overdue.
Very,
really.
very soon, I'm sure.
With their
Yes.
confirmation, it
Yeah,
should be
exactly.
Air Marshal, really.
Yes.
Air Vice Marshal Hassan Abubakar.
Yes.
How prepared would you say he was for this job, and how is he coping with the new assignments?
Yeah, for Air Vice Marshal Hassan Abubakar, I would say it was, his being in this saddle at this moment was, I could say you can attribute it to sheer providence, an act of God, because when you look at his CV, you will see that right from the get-go, I think the service actually prepared him for his current responsibility. You look at the fact that even though he's a pilot, he has had experience as a special force, having attended amphibious and jumpers courses. You know, had an opportunity to relate with his Army colleagues. Apart from that, he had training as an admin officer to give him an idea of what manning, putting square pegs or in square holes. Same, he went through training in aircraft engineering that gave an idea of some of the challenges that we're having and how to address them. At the same time, he has had courses that has to do with aircraft safety. And all of those things coming together, taking up appointments, strategic appointments that prepared him, first as Director of Policy and then Director of Operations. All of these responsibilities gave him the impetus to get him ready for the task ahead. And so far, we're seeing results. You know, he has hit the ground running and has made sure that the pilots, especially who are there in the battlefield, have all of the things they require to make sure that we get to the bottom of the problems that we're having. Of course, you recall that we lost an aircraft about a week ago. Yeah. You saw the proactive steps he took to make sure that these pilots get the attention they require, bring them down to Abuja, give them the best medical health, go into Makurdi, addressing their colleagues, boost their confidence, and make sure that we don't derail, you know, from the objective, and make sure that we continue to hit these criminals until they succumb and come to the negotiating table.
Yeah, we'll come to that aircraft crash because a lot of Nigerians are just a bit worried that it seems that we're having frequency of of crashes, but we're going to come to that. But let's look. The Nigerian Air Force we have today, how good or how prepared or how equipped in terms of machine and man to actually face if there are any challenges?
Yeah, I think we're in a very good place when you look at where we're coming from. And I think in the last 7 or 8 years, the Air Force has never had it this good. Let's be honest. The federal government has invested a lot in the Nigerian Air Force. You remember we took custody of the Super Tucanos and several other platforms. Before the end of this year, we're expecting about 51 other platforms to add into our fleet. And I mean, that is massive for any country. That is a massive investment in our security. Apart from that, you have seen the drive towards ensuring that we get enough manpower. Recruitments have been enhanced and have been open for all Nigerians to come and enlist so that we can defend our fatherland. So there are a lot of efforts. The Air Force itself is expanding, you know, from 4 commands to 6 commands right now. And of course, all of these things are signs that the Air Force is growing and is capable, working together with other services, other security agencies to make sure that we nip this situation that we have in the board and make sure that our people have that freedom to move around. Children go back to their schools, farmers go back to the farms, and everybody going back to his life that we're used to when we're growing up. So the capability is there, and the set of service chiefs that we have today, I tell you, we wouldn't have had a better set of people to lead the armed forces as to what we have today.
Okay. Before we go into the nitty-gritty, let me find out. I know that the cars came with prepared, like we can see from his CV and from his interaction with him. I knew he's ready to work. What is his command philosophy? What is going to be the drive? Yeah,
actually, before I even tell you what his command philosophy is, let me state here that in arriving at his philosophy, he took cognizance of 2 issues. First, our security environment. You know, what are the challenges? And what are all of these things that have brought us to this state? Of course, we are also aware that these challenges are well captured in the National Defense Policy 2017. You know, and after looking at these challenges, the next thing he did was to look at the state of our fleets. And at 78% serviceability status, he said, yes, now let me chart the way forward for the Nigerian Air Force. And that is why he came with a philosophy that says that he intends to transform the Nigerian Air Force into an agile and resilient force that effectively meets the air power demands of national security in all operational environments. Now, how do you make this philosophy realizable? He came up with 5 key drivers. The first one has to do with force structure optimization. He has realized that we have spread ourselves so thin, opened up so many units, but the manpower is not that effective. So he wants to make sure that he optimizes this kind of deployments. If there is need to close some of these units and bring our men together to have more manpower in one place so that we can effectively address some of these situations, he's going to look at that. Deliberate training is also one of the key drivers he has also brought out. Why? Because training must be aimed at something. Don't just do general training these days. It must be aimed at that particular problem that you're having. So he's looking at all of that. Logistics support and strong maintenance culture is one other thing that he has also said that he's going to look at. And of course, we're lucky that he's a trained aircraft engineer. So these are things that we know that we see changes in that. R&D, lessons learned, very, very important for any institution to move forward. And of course, the most important, welfare of personnel. Exactly. But apart from welfare of personnel, one thing he brought out clearly is the fact that infrastructural renewal is going to be one of the main areas he's going to focus on, to make sure that houses for personnel, schools are functional, to make sure they have roads, and all of those basic things, water, electricity, and all of those things are functional. Because if you have personnel that is worried about how his family is or are doing back home, then of course he's not going to get focused on the attention or on the tasks ahead of him. You know, so these are the areas that he wants to look at, and I want to believe that it's just a matter of time before we begin to see tangible results on ground.
Okay, now you talked about earlier on, you talked about the very popular 12 Super Tucanos, really, which was very cheering news to Nigerians. Yeah. But some Nigerians are beginning to ask questions that they are not seeing these fighter jets working. It's like, what is happening? You just get beautiful machine and pack them there.
Well, it's actually not that. I can tell you that the Tucanos, Super Tucanos, have been one of our best buys, and they have been performing very well out there in the field. In fact, daily in the northeast, northwest, south, all over this country, the Tucanos are there. Of course, those are not the only platforms that we have. All the platforms that we have are working day and night and all of that. You saw the strikes in the south against oil bunkerers, oil thieves, and economic saboteurs. You heard about the strike in Jibia local government in Basari that took out about 22 terrorists. And of course, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you saw that precision strike against over 200 terrorists in Mandara Hills.
Mandara Hills, yeah.
I mean, the videos are out there for people to see. So these are no flukes. And these are signs that these machines are delivering. But the honest truth is this. Can the military end the war against terrorism and insurgency? Absolutely no. They can only take care of barely 30% of the problem. Yes. What are the underlying issues there? Whose responsibility is it to address these issues? I think that is where Nigerians should concentrate on. But as far as the military is concerned, we are up to task, and we're delivering, and we're doing our mandate. I mean, we're making sure that we achieve our mandate.
Okay. One thing that bothered some Nigerians, having asked that question several times, why there seems that this frequency of air crashes involving our precious platforms are becoming frequent. I don't know. That is what they are saying, really. Though I've asked some people to research from other countries what is also happening in these big countries. Tell us, why our planes, our fighter jets crashing?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think we've had too many plane crashes. If you look at the statistics in the last 7 years, averagely, it's barely 0.87 aircraft in the last 8 years per year, averagely. And look, let's be honest with ourselves. Once you have an Air Force that is active, like Nigerian Air Force, like the US Air Force, like the South African Air Force, like the Egyptian Air Force, the likelihood of accidents are always going to be there. And it could be human error, it could be weather. One of my senior colleagues says it could even be act of God. You understand? So it could be mechanical even. So these things happen. The reason why you don't hear this kind of accidents around us, around our borders, is simple. How many aircrafts do these countries have? So perhaps that is why people just really get agitated when they hear about this crash. It's not as if we are happy when it happens, but it's difficult to sometimes avoid it as long as you're an active Air Force, as long as you are one of the best Air Forces in the world. That's the truth.
Yeah. I know that it also borders not just that the aircraft goes beyond repairs, but human lives. But recently, we're also gladdened to see that our men are able to escape all this and come out alive. So what is happening in that case?
Yeah, we thank God that the last incident, our men came out alive, and that is what we want to hear. And that means the training that they have been receiving is actually taking effect on them, Unfortunately, some have not had that opportunity, and we just want Nigerians to really be patient with Nigerian Air Force. When these kind of things happen, and let me tell you, I've observed, the moment people found out these pilots came out alive, obviously you could see that the focus on the crash died down, which is good. We must be concerned about human lives and all of that. But when we have accidents too, Nigerians must understand that sometimes these things will happen. It's a tough job. You must respect these young men that are doing some of these things. These young men and young women doing some of these things. It's a difficult job. It's a job that you hardly find time for your families, yourself, and your friends. Some of these people have been in the battlefield for years. These guys have been flying day and night while we're sleeping. So it's a difficult job, and it's a job that we must begin to show appreciation to members of our armed forces and begin to understand that they are laying down their lives for the future of our country.
Now, one of the things that I know that some time passed, recently, I think there's an improvement that the airstrikes have been precise, unlike in the past where some innocent civilians were said to have been falling victims in the line of these strikes. How did you come about these changes now? What is happening? What's the improvement?
Yeah, first of all, accidental strikes on civilian lives, it's not intentional, and it's something that we regret, and it's something that I'm glad that the Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Hassan Abubakar, is looking at very, very well, because he's a safety expert. You can be rest assured that he's going to take time and critically look at all of these issues and make sure that the lessons learned, are imbibed in our pilots. Now, having said that, to be honest, most of these strikes are intelligence-driven. And when you look at the kind of security situation that we have, insurgency, terrorism, where the enemy lives around us, sometimes it could be very difficult to pinpoint some of these guys. And once they have an idea that these strikes are going to happen, you know what they do? They just begin to mix up and all of that. But we are happy that there is an improvement in the targeting, and we are working with our foreign partners, for some of these lessons learned to be imbibed in our pilots and make sure that we avoid or we minimize to a large extent, unintentional targets on civilians and all of that.
Reviewing military spendings across the world, and even in our African country, I noticed that it seems that not much has been spent in terms of, but the average Nigerian would say so much is being spent for the military acquiring all these platforms and these services. Averagely, what do you think? Do you think much still need to be done?
Honestly, I don't think we've started spending, honestly, because if you consider the fact that without security, you and I won't be sitting down here, then it's nothing that is too much of security. I don't think so. The moment the environment is secured, then all business activities, all economic activities can begin to flourish. So if you don't have security, what are you going to do? Imagine those people in Maiduguri and all of those places. We're happy that situations have improved and business activities are coming back, the economy is picking up and all of that. But the first most important thing that you require is to be secured. And then once that is there, then all other activities will flourish. So nothing is too much. I don't think we're spending too much. Of course, there are needs by other government agencies, but security must be a priority. And that's why you find some of these countries that are even safe, no crisis, investing heavily in security. Countries in Europe that are bordered by countries that have similar cultures are spending money on security. Let's not go to US, China, or Russia. These are big-time spenders. But I think we are very grateful, of course, to the government. But I believe more can also be done to improve on that.
Is there anything the Nigerian Air Force is doing, particularly under Air Vice Marshal Abubakar, to improve that, maybe reduce our forest spending, acquiring some of these things? If we can reproduce some of these things locally, technology transfer, is it possible?
Absolutely. And incidentally, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Abubakar, was, before his appointment as the 22nd Chief of Air Staff, the Chief of Standards and Evaluation. Now, that is the branch in the Air Force that is saddled with maintenance of safety culture in the Air Force. And at the same time, research and development is under that particular branch. And as of today, the Nigerian Air Force has about 30 to 35 MOUs with various universities and institutions of learning. And all of that is geared towards seeing how we can improve on our R&D. And to be honest, we have seen some very good results that has helped the country save some hard-earned money, a lot. We have collaborated with Innoson in the past, and Proforce and all of these organizations. And so far, I think it's fantastic, it's encouraging, but of course, there is need for us to make sure that we improve on that. What the chief has said is, the prolific, you know, when you have too many research institutions, you know, the services, the civilian organizations having too many research institutions, the likelihood for you to get the best out of these various institutions may not be there. So perhaps he believes that coming together, you know, to have an institution of research, you know, to look at some of these issues that we have will help in making sure that we solve these problems. That's what's happening overseas. You know, you see a lot of civilians involved in you know, a lot of military researches and all of that. So those are the areas that I know he will be looking at. But so far, I think the Air Force Research and Development are doing well. The collaborations are bringing out very good results that I think will assist the service.
Yeah, even as we are getting signal to leave, is it possible to also develop maybe unmanned area vehicles for us to use silently and maybe cheaper?
That research has been ongoing for a long time. If you recall the Gulma project, that research has been ongoing for a long time. We have also received a lot of other projects from other civilian institutions that we are looking at reverse engineering and all of that. So there is hope for the future, I assure you.
Time really is not our side, but on the final word, the personnel are very important. You talked as part of the common philosophy of the Chief of the Air Staff welfare, but we can't exhaust this today. But are you sure that the personnel of the Nigerian Air Force will smile more now?
I think I will allow you to go and make your investigation about the kind of person the Chief of Air Staff is. You know, it's a man of impeccable integrity, I can assure you. And for him to include infrastructural renewal as part of his key drivers, that's to tell you where he wants to take the service to. Okay. You know, and of course, he has also said, if you don't take care of the men, then the millions you're spending on machines is just a waste. Because if the man is not happy, of course, he'll be thinking about his family down home. And what do you expect? Yeah. And what would you expect, you know?
We'll keep watch on that. We'll try to follow that and see how that is executed. But it's been a pleasure having you. We wish to continue. Maybe time permits, we could have you again very soon to talk on other areas of issues. But I must say it's our pleasure having you on the program today. On the final word, what do you expect from Nigerians?
Well, we continue to solicit for their support. We can't ask enough of that, you know, because without the support of Nigerians to the armed forces, look, we won't be where we are. And I want to also appreciate all Nigerians. A lot of people have called in to appreciate us every time they hear of our successes. Even if they hear of our misfortunes, they still call us to appreciate us. So please, Nigerians, continue to appreciate the members of the armed forces because they are doing a lot, they're sacrificing a lot to make sure that all of us have a good night's sleep. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm glad. Yeah, viewers, unfortunately we have to leave, but I know that you have so much, I've received so much questions here, but time will not permit us. Maybe next week we'll see what we can do with it and get you these answers. Until we come over again next week, I said thanks for staying tuned and bye for now.